There's a test tomorrow, you're going to have a point. What's also due tomorrow that some people forgot about last time, they're not going to forget this time. Study guide. Table 6 at first, they can have the point. Study guide. You've got to turn in your study guide tomorrow. And you also, if I've not seen your homework from the other day, table 1 can have a point for that. If I've not seen your homework from the other day, which is in our notes, because let's be honest, most of you looked at me like I was crazy when I wanted to do yesterday to check your assignment from over the long weekend. If I've not seen that by the test tomorrow, while you take test tomorrow, I get to type in the 0 for it to make sure I've seen that today. I have 3 or 4 who have not passed that 2.3 checkpoint. It was from last Thursday and Friday. And let's see. I don't have a 2.3 checkpoint score done for Tyreek, for Natalie, for Paige, Ben, Patrick, Braxton, Gracie, and Alex. Let me remind you of what that one looks like. Yes, perfect. We hand it here. It looks like this. It had a table, it had a graph, and it had 2 problems where you had to calculate slip. So those are the ones I'm missing it from. You, if you've lost yours, just let me know. I can find you a new one. But those are the ones I'm missing it from. And then we also got an opportunity for another checkpoint. Is it technically going to be a grade? No. It's bonus. How many points, Kelsey? 5. And Kelsey, you had it first, so we'll give Kelsey the point for that. So 5 points on the test, which is tomorrow, if you take, and I'm going to add this, and pass the checkpoint before the test occurs tomorrow. So either Valeria is going to take it and pass it before she leaves the room today, or she's going to come in 0 period and make sure she passes it before the test, but she has to have it passed before the test. I've got like, table 1, take a point away. My God, you have the groups on the phone. Really, get it together. Okay, if you're worried about your group getting your points today, you probably should be if you're feeling like a cell phone kind of play day. You and I both know it's a study guide day, so I have to see you working hard on that study guide. And as long as your group does so until, let's see, I have the key set to post at 8:52. So as long as your group's working hard until 8:52, at that point, would I totally understand if you were playing on your phone? Yeah, because I hope at that point you'd be playing on your phone to look at the key and make sure you're on the right track. That's what I would pray, but you know I don't always get what I want. So as long as your group is working on the study guide after we go over these math workshop answers, you will get your points for today. If you don't ask me a question, like, hey, Miss Compton, can you work number 24? I don't know you need me to work it, and I genuinely just post the key and assume Gracie has it. So you've got to say something and let me know if you need me to work one out loud because you just don't understand. Okay. Say again, ma'am.
You can do that?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, perfect. If you went ahead and worked some and you had some questions, I would love to answer that. If you want to come see me one-on-one, or I can answer out loud in front of everybody, I do not care. Let's go over this math workshop. I gave you a heads up yesterday about this coming up. I told you to use Google, to ask your phone, to look in your textbook. Notice I have your textbook in front of me. That's what I used. I'm going to prove that you could have just used it to answer these questions. Although, to be honest, we said a lot of the words out loud yesterday. I know Arturo had at least one written down on his paper. He just had to connect the dots.
Red just had down 4.
Probably. Okay, would someone like to volunteer for 2A? We'll come back to 1E in a moment. Would someone like to volunteer for 2A? Well, I don't know how you think you're going to get 5 points today if you're not willing to volunteer for stuff. 2A? What's the name of the y equals x? What kind of function is that? Yes, ma'am? Y equals x all by itself. Y equals x squared is quadratic. That's a quadratic function. When it has the exponent of 2, it's quadratic, which is y equals x is not quadratic. Eduardo. Yeah, and it's a line, so we would call it linear. So we're going to call it linear. We'll give Eduardo the point, but so y equals x is a linear function. Y equals x squared is a quadratic function. And if you want to add the word function, you can. Natalie, you had the third one? square root function?
It is the square root function. And your group can have a point. Yes, ma'am. Number 3. Table 3, you want to answer B? It is an absolute value function, and your group can have the point for that. Okay, and then the last one is the hardest one. Yes, dear?
Rational.
And rational is going to work, or reciprocal function. I've heard it either way. So your book says reciprocal function, but I always learned it as rational. So I'm going to write reciprocal function. But I completely agree with you, and you can have a point for that. I would have called it a rational function. Okay, Miss Compton, how did you find out that answer? Let's see. The directions said something, something, parent graph. I went to the back of my book. I went to my index. I looked up the word parent and function. I see parent function of this, of this, of this. And I saw a word I didn't really know. I was like, parent function of square root functions. Well, I already know that. That's letter C. And then it said parent functions of reciprocal functions. I was like, I don't know what that is. It said go to page 545, so I went to page 545, and lo and behold, not only did it have the name, it has the graph that I needed for 1E. So if you're fast and you can beat me to the graph, page 545 in your textbook has the graph for 1E. Unless someone already knows it. Yes, dear? It is 2 lines like that, and your group gets another point. I told a lie yesterday, a blatant lie. A blatant lie, because I was not using my brain, because it was first period in the morning. What blatant lie did I tell yesterday for 2 points? I told a blatant lie yesterday. In fact, let's see. My blatant lie is on the screen. I told a blatant lie yesterday. I said it went through the origin, and that's not necessarily true, and you got 2 points for that. So I said all parent graphs go through the origin. That is a lie. That is a lie. The linear one did, the quadratic one did, the square root function did, and the absolute value function did. But this one, this reciprocal or rational function, that darn R word function, it is not going to go through the origin. Why does y equals 1 over x not go through the origin?
Because it's not the graph it is.
But why mathematically can it not go through 0, 0? There is a problem with that fraction. What's going to be the problem? I'm going to have 1 over 0. Can we have that?
No.
It's undefined there, so that's why it cannot actually hit that origin spot. Okay, but we're good at math. What's 1 divided by 1? Okay. What's 1 divided by 2? 1 divided by 2, isn't it just 1/2? And 1 divided by 3 is 1/3, then 1/4, and we're going to get closer and closer to that x-axis, but we're not actually going to touch it. 1/5, 1/6. We're getting closer and closer to 0, but we're not actually going to touch it. When we get closer and closer to something when we don't actually touch it, did your math teacher teach you what that term was called?
Oh.
Starts with an A. No. It's okay that you don't know. We'll get to that later. Okay, so what if I do 1 divided by 1/2? What's 1 divided by 1/2? What's 1 divided by 1/2? Isn't that just end up being 2? So if I go over a half, I actually go up 2. And if I go over a third, I actually go up 3. And on the other side, it gets closer and closer to the y-axis, but it never actually touches it. So again, it's this weirdo-looking line, this weirdo-looking function. It's not a line, it's a function that goes through 1, 1. It gets closer and closer to the y, closer and closer to the x, but in no way near comes near that origin. And it's going to do the exact same thing on the other side with the negatives. It's going to get closer and closer to that x, closer and closer to that y, but it's never actually going to touch it. Okay, before I turn you hog loose and say go to town on your study guide, get out. Are there any questions about this? Do I?
No.
Okay, we're obviously going to do 3 and 4 on Friday. We don't want to do any of them tomorrow because it's a test day. If you have out your study guide, page, let me spill your study guide. If you How about your study guide? I want to look over one or two problems really fast, make sure we're on the same page so you go grading. For the love, people, do not miss this on the study guide and do not miss this on the test. On 1 through 4, if Seth does not actually state the domain and range, in addition to a deciding function, not a function, one-to-one, onto, neither or both, he's going to be in trouble. He's got to state the domain and range. Now, I get that some of them actually have the words domain and range, so maybe he's just going to circle that, so I know he's not a dumbo. But like on number 3, they didn't label domain and range for you, so you've got to label it. You've got to label it. Okay, so far we've had a lot of examples that were which. One-to-one, onto, neither or both. What's our most favorite lately? Onto. Tell when we can have their point again. Onto's been our favorite lately. And it looks like a lot of these are onto because there are no Y's who don't have a match. But while a lot of these look onto, there is one that is both. There is one that is both. So I'll go ahead and tell you that. There is one graph that is both. There is one, yes. Well, one, no, not a graph. There is one in 1 through 4 that is both. If you caught that, it's not the graph one. That was a good question. Okay, 7, 8, 9, be careful with that negative sign. It tripped me up when I was making my key. Notice this negative sign is outside that x squared. So for instance, if I plug in the 4, page, you might have right on yours. If I plug in 4, I'm going to have negative 4 squared. So I'm going to end up with minus 4. I end up with negative 16 minus 4, which is negative 20. Again, just be careful of the negatives. Be careful of the negatives. Because the negative is on the outside, I actually do, for once, get to keep it negative 16 instead of turning it into positive 16. Okay, are there any obvious questions about 7 through 11? You're going to break my heart if you miss 11 because you missed the similar one on the quiz. You missed it on the quiz. It's showing up on the study guide. It's my way of telling you it's going to make the test. There's going to be one similar to 11 on the test. So you've got to get it together on that one. Okay, 12 through 14, you just have to say function, not a function. If it's not, you have to explain why. So you better say something like, the exponents. It's not a function because of the large exponent. Or it's not a function because x is in the denominator. Do not let number 14 trick you. We could rewrite that as 1/3 x plus 3y equals negative 5. Number 14 actually ends up being a yes. They're trying to trick you. It ends up being a yes. They're trying to trick you.
What did 12 and 13 be?
They're both no's and therefore that fixed. Yeah.
Yay, I got that right.
Yeah. I knew you would. Okay, 15, 16, and 17, you're going to break my heart on 16 and 17. I can already foresee the future. It is okay if you decide A, B, or C is 0. Remember that? It's okay if A, B, or C is 0. We're only mad if A is what? Negative or a fraction. Hunter, you said both things. Your table can have a point. Negative and a fraction. He said both things. He can have the point. Okay, 19, 20, and 21 on my key. God, bless my heart. I did not graph. I did not completely follow directions. My bad. I did find the x and y intercepts. When I grade Hal's test, great if he can find the x and y intercepts. But when I actually look at is, did he graph this line correctly? If he did, I don't start questioning how he did it. That's the good news. Okay, and then I really need to talk mostly about 22 and 24. Yes, I realize there's no 23. That means you're getting a free point for just being alive. Okay, we worked a lot of these, and we kept noticing a linear pattern. Everything was changing like by 2s, or there was a constant rate of change. If you can't find that constant rate of change, it's not linear. And it's okay if you say just we can't do that. So for instance, on this one, 12 minus 6 over 4 minus 2, well, this one's going up by 6s, this one's going up by 2s. It is a linear pattern. We can find that rate of change. But on this one, it ends up being not a linear pattern. I believe
Yeah,
this
it
one.
is. It's 2 and 8.
Yeah, we're going up by 2s, we're going up by 8s. Okay, yes, this one's fine too. But, oh, I know what. There was one on a checkpoint that I gave to everybody that had a table, and it was just not a linear pattern. So just be careful. Make sure things are linear before you start calculating your life away. If you miss 25, 26, 27, we have a real problem. Yes, ma'am.
Like, I didn't get it because it was just straight across. Do I get on the graph?
Yes, because it's going to be like this.
Uh-huh.
Because the y is going to be in 0.
And like, how would you find the slope?
It's going to be 0. So when you calculate it, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, you get 0 over 3, which is just 0. So the slope is 0. The slope is 0. Okay, 28, 29, 30. You got to put it in y equals mx plus b. You got to, but if you don't, seriously, what I grade is, if it says graph the equation, first thing I look at on paper is, did she graph it correctly? If she did, I don't start questioning her whole life. And then 31 through 34 are what we talked about yesterday and the day before, and Friday. So if you're confused on 31 and 34, I would say look at page, I think it was 17 of the notes. Page 17 of the notes. So if I were really giving you a hint, because I didn't do a good job of giving you hints yesterday, parallel means they have the same slope. So on 33, our slope would be 1/2, because this one's slope was 1/2. But on 34, since we want perpendicular, what slope will we choose on 34?
On 34?
Uh-huh. Perpendicular. Negative what?
3.
Over?
Over,
Yeah. You flip it. You change the sign.
Oh, yeah.
You get a hesitant point, yeah. Okay, if you have any questions throughout it, you want to come ask me, do. If you really think I should work 21 in front of the, and that's what I get, 21 in front of the whole class, I sure can. Whatever you need to do, I can do. But you have to work on your study guide or else your group's not getting your points. I would understand if you're on your phone at, I think 8:52 is when it posts, but you and I both know you need to work it for you. Okay, good luck. Do your things.